Everybody knows that Queen won Live Aid. But who lost? Well, it most certainly was not Adamant. He only did one song. The press stylings, they made up numerous claims, both at the time and since. I will cover all of that. I'm also going to name and shame the 5 worstest, most embarrassing Live Aid performances. This is the second part, the final part of a series of mini documentaries about Adamant. So before we start, let's have a little look to see what my viewers thought of the first one. John Hogson said, "This chump's a clown." Well, let's look at another page. "This cock's got 174 views on his YouTube channel." There must be some feedback from someone other than this John bloke. Louise, the fairer sex. What does that say? "He's a twat." Well, it's a good thing that I've always lived my life by the words ridicule is nothing to be scared of. Someone on the internet that I don't know said something mean about me. No, it's all right. I've just got something in my eye. Can we just have a little break? Can we just have a little? This chump is a clown. I mean, can we have a break? Can the clown have a break? Can the clown have a break? Chump is a clown. Comma. ... Comma. The chump is a clown, comma, ... John, even I know, and I'm a cock, that an ellipsis is not comma, ... I mean, who feels like a chump now? And as these videos clearly annoy you so much, this is not the second and final part. This is now part 2 of a 10-part series of Adamant mini documentaries. All down to you, John. Your fault. I bet you're thinking of another word beginning with C for me now, aren't you? Roll credits, comma, ... There were loads of terrible performances, mistakes, and mishaps. Here are my top 5 worstest Live Aid performances. In at number 5, Phil Collins. He was like God. He may have made an exodus from Genesis, but during Live Aid he was omnipresent. He messed up and shakes his head in embarrassment, playing against all odds. If you don't believe me, take a look at him now. Down 2 places at number 4 we have Crosby, Stills and Nash, who are all singing the same song in different keys. The performers couldn't hear one another on stage apparently, and Crosby was regretting paying the bond to get out of jail on drug and weapon charges for this performance. And with a second week at number 3 we have Duran Duran. Their set saw a weak off-key falsetto note hit by the frontman Simon Le Bon. During A View to a Kill, the error was dubbed the bum note heard around the world. And up 7 places to number 2 in the list of worst performances at Live Aid is, if I'm being subjective, I'd say The Who. If I was being objective, I'd say it was The Whom. They had technical issues by the truckload, the bass guitar just wouldn't work, they had lights that were smashed, and it all culminated with them getting halfway through My Generation when the satellite feed cut out. So if someone came to your house halfway through My Generation when the video feed was gone and just the audio was being broadcast, they could ask you who this band was and you could say yes. And straight in at number 1 we have Phil Collins. Well, I mean, he was on drums for Led Zeppelin and number 1 in this list. And this was a nightmare reunion for the band. They didn't so much soar as a Zeppelin, they were more of a blimp on the radar. Jimmy Page's guitar was out of tune, Robert Plant had lost his voice, and the drummer, John Bonham, had died on his own vomit to get out of doing this gig. Phil Collins filled in. Page said of Collins' performance, "Robert told me Phil Collins wanted to play with us. I told him that was alright, if he knows the numbers. But at the end of the day, he didn't know anything. We played a whole lot of love and he was just there bashing away, clueless and grinning." Led Zeppelin win this list easily, and they've also blocked broadcasts of the performance and withheld permission for it to be included on the DVD release. Philadelphia named it one of the worst rock and roll reunions of all time. And Adam's performance was in no way a bad one. It was just he only got one song. and then he chose his latest single to be that song rather than one of his greatest hits. So just doing one song meant that all his young fans, like the producer of my radio show, Peter, who'd been excitedly waiting like the whole week for Live Aid and to see Adam Ant on TV doing a set, was severely disappointed. It was over before it began, and then the press, they didn't like the fact that Adam Ant just did his latest single. And then there are the facts, the things that we know about Adam Ant and Live Aid, thanks to the press, that are not actually true.
He opened the UK segment of the concert and he sang only one song, but arguably it destroyed his already skidding solo career. The Telegraph.
That's simply not true. Everyone knows that's not true. Status Quo went on first. I mean, Prince Charles and Diana went on before them, and then you had Style Council, then you had Boomtown Rats, and you also had people introducing the bands. Adam Ant was very embarrassing because he came on and he said, "This is my new single, The Independent." That's not true. That's not what happened. Watch the video. He's introduced simply by Harvey Goldsmith.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr.
And then Adam says, absolutely nothing before the song. And at the end, he only says 2 words.
Thank you!
It's a lie. He never said this is my new single. It's just a press's way of making Adam sound really bad.
Of all of the acts at Wembley Stadium, Adam Ant was the only one whose record sales did not increase after Live Aid. The Telegraph. Topo.
Live Aid was July the 13th, 1985. This is the official UK charts from the week directly before Live Aid, and there's Viva la Rock, a new entry at 64. Then this is the week after Live Aid, and it's now gone up to position 50. So it's not true his single went down after Live Aid. Maybe the Telegraph meant the album. They can't have meant the album because the Viva la Rock album didn't come out for at least a month after Live Aid. So 2 weeks after Live Aid, if you look at that chart, which is a full solid week of sales after Live Aid, and the single did fall to 60th position. Now the single tanking like that was less to do with Live Aid and more to do with a lack of promotion from the label CBS and a mispressing where many of the singles didn't have a B-side on it. No B-side, baby. But if they mean that chart, was Adam Ant truly the only act to drop in the charts the second week after performing at Live Aid? So remember, Adam Ant did not have an album out, so he couldn't have lost sales on the album after Live Aid. The first act on was Status Quo. They didn't have a single out. Next up, Style Council. They went down to 54th. Boomtown Rats, they had no single out. Ultravox, no single. Spandau Ballet. Joan Baez, Elvis Costello, no single. The Hooters, no career. So that's 44 acts out of the 58 lying at Live Aid with no singles in the charts. So you've got Sting, Phil Collins, U2. So if people did not have a single out, he had to have done better than them. So he outsold 48 out of 58 of the acts on at Live Aid. Adam Ant was easily in the top 20% of best-selling live acts after the show. And ignoring singles just released on the 27th, only 2 singles actually went up in the charts. And yet, thanks to the press, we have this myth that Adam Ant was the only act who, after Live Aid, his record sales went down. It's just simply not true. Now, the villain in this piece is held up as being Bob Geldof. But I don't think that's quite fair. Because although in his biography he did sort of say what people have said he said, I'm not sure what I said, about how Adam Ant was past it, but this is what he actually said.
Miles Copeland, manager of Adam Ant and Sting, asked if I thought of asking Ant after I contacted him to get Sting to appear. I hadn't. I thought he was a bit passé. And then, so we're the Boomtown Rats. And he's represented a certain piece about history. So I agreed. I also saw that might entice him to go to Sting. Perhaps only at the police.
To be fair to Bob Geldof, he gave himself and Adamant the worst spots in the show. He acknowledges the beginning of the UK's Live Aid was in the wrong time zone for the American audience. So the bands he put on in the first section were all the bands that were very much UK-centric. Doing that show was the biggest mistake in the world. Knighthoods were made. Bono got it made. And it was a waste of time. It was the end of rock and roll. But that was not how Adam felt on the day. This is an interview with the BBC moments after he'd been on stage, and you can see how much more positive he was about the whole experience at that point. And what a nice positive way to end this video. Thank you all for watching. We have got another 8 more of these mini documentaries about Adamant's bad decision making or embarrassing performances. I may run out, so John, why not send in what you think is the worst decision or kind of the worst gig that Adamant has done, and I'll make a video about that, my little buddy. So thank you again for watching, and if you want to know when those videos drop, just subscribe, hit the notification bell, smash like, maybe leave a comment below about what you thought about Adamant's performance at Live Aid. And we still have a competition running right now, up there, yes, and you could win a prize, a unique prize worth about just over £1,000. It's a very unique prize. So thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you again, all my little YouTube bros.
You should do something good, so you'll find you can do something you never could. If you want